All right, today we're doing something a little different. We're not just going to analyze a text, we're going to descend right into it. Think of this as a journey into a parable, a living story about a world that exists right under our own. We're going to map out its anatomy, piece by piece.
And here's where it all starts, with this single image, a shadow, a crack in the earth, and an invitation. Right away, you get this sense of mystery, right? It's not an accident, it's a deliberate choice to go downward, to see what's really lurking beneath the surface of things. This isn't just about going into a cave, it's about going into an idea.
So you accept the invitation, and this is what you find. Instantly, the whole rulebook gets thrown out. The line between what's rock and what's flesh, what's architecture and what's anatomy, it just vanishes. This right here, this is our doorway into the first stage of this whole upside-down pilgrimage. So that brings us to our first section. It's all about accepting that invitation. It's about taking that first crucial step into what the text calls the labyrinth of the body. This is a conscious decision, a choice to explore a reality that is both solid earth and something deeply, deeply biological.
Now, let's talk about this core concept, the labyrinth of the body. This is not your average cave system. You have to imagine a place that actually breathes, that has a damp, metabolic heat to it. A place where rock formations suddenly look like a rib cage, where the ground itself is part of this massive, living organism. It's the world itself as an anatomy.
And the descriptions of this place, they're just incredible. The text talks about an architecture of living stone. It describes fibrous veins that actually pulse with some kind of stolen underground life. The ceilings aren't just rock. They're a cruel, ribbed vaulting, like a giant thoracic cage made of granite. See? Every single detail is designed to fuse the living with the non-living until you can't tell them apart. Okay, so once you're inside, the journey kind of shifts gears. It's not just about exploring anymore. It's about understanding. This quote suggests that the labyrinth isn't just a place. It's a kind of text, a guide, a vade-mecum that holds a pretty wild secret about how everything was made. And that's a perfect lead-in to our second section, the world's rough draft. So if the first part was about just getting into the abyss, this part is about learning how to read it. It's about figuring out its rules and discovering this unique synthesis, this new truth that can only exist in a place this deep. So what is a vade-mecum? It's basically an old term for a handbook, a guide you carry with you. But here, the world itself, the wood of the roots, the bone-like rock, that is the handbook. And what's it telling us? It's revealing this radical idea that the earth we know was just a prototype, a practice run for creating flesh. This whole process of understanding, it's called the third sloughing, like shedding an old skin, getting rid of your surface world ideas. And the steps are pure metaphor. You have to walk through a bronchial forest of vines. You witness a kind of mystical synthesis with the cave itself. And finally, you see the soul's anatomy laid bare, with no illusions left to hide behind. And what's the point of all this? Where does it lead? Well, it leads to this, a profound sense of acceptance, a sacred yes to what the text calls the gay science of the gut. Now, that's a nod to philosophy, and it suggests an embrace of a joyful, powerful knowledge that doesn't come from your brain. It comes from your gut, from primal instinct. It's a philosophy of the flesh, not the spirit. But then, boom, this quote hits, and everything changes. It's no longer enough to just understand the abyss. That understanding has to become action. And that action has an agent, a purpose, and a venom that is meant to fundamentally change the world above. And this is where things get really intense, which brings us to our third section, heresy of the gut. This is where that deep philosophy becomes a doctrine, a mission. And it's called a heresy for a reason. It's in direct opposition to everything the surface world believes. This is the ideology of the abyss finally taking form. So what in the world is the tarantula preacher? Well, it's not some guy in a robe. The text presents it as more of a function, a force. It's the active will of the abyss. Its whole purpose is to act like a spider, to inject its venom, its will, its philosophy, into the sleeping body of the town above and change it completely from the inside out. So what's its mission statement? What's it actually trying to do? Well, it seeks out the ugly parts of humanity, the bitterness, the anger. It doesn't want to wake up the ignorant. It actually wants to keep them asleep and comfortable. And its greatest purpose? It's a kind of brutal honesty, to rip open the cage and reveal the primal beast that's hiding inside the pious saint. Now, pay close attention here, because the narrator's perspective completely flips. They're not visitors anymore. They see themselves as parasites who have finally found their rightful home, their host. They're no longer just watching the abyss. They've become a part of it. And that transformation is exactly what our fourth section is all about, the surgical infection. The narrators have taken on a brand new role. They see themselves as a necessary disease, a kind of surgical infection that's been designed to cure the world above of what it calls holy stagnation. So here it is, laid out plain and simple. The two realities at war. On one side you have the superterrestrial, the world up top, which is all about pious decay and stagnation. And on the other, you have the subterranean, the world below, which is physical, primal, and celebrates this unrepentant mastery over life itself. This is the core conflict of the entire parable. At this point, there's no turning back. They fully embrace this new identity. They are disguised devils, and look at where they operate, in the marrow of the species. This isn't some open battle. It's a secret cellular-level infection, rewriting the very code of the world from the inside. And with this line, you can just feel it. We're entering the end game. The journey is almost over. The old world, the prologue, is just becoming a faded memory as they reach the very heart of it all, the nervous center of the living labyrinth. And that brings us to the grand finale, our last section, a glorious dark age. And this isn't about simple destruction. It's about creating something new. It's about permanently anchoring the will of the abyss to the world above, establishing a whole new order. This really boils the whole thing down to one unsettling question, doesn't it? What happens to a civilization when its heartbeat, its motivation, its very life force is being controlled by a hidden, predatory power that it doesn't even know is there? Well, the text doesn't shy away from an answer. It lays out a new biological law. The takeover is now complete. That tarantula force is now nested in the heart of the world. The pulse of the city is no longer its own. The mission is, for all intents and purposes, a success. The connection is permanent. But you know what the most chilling part of this whole thing is? It's this. This massive revolution, this total subjugation of an entire world's will, it all happened in secret. The city just sleeps on, completely unaware that it's now just a puppet for a much older, much deeper power. And that's how the story closes. Not with some big explosion, but with a pulse. A new age has begun. Not in the light, but right here, with this final, powerful image. A new power, a new world, a new law, all beginning its reign with a quiet, steady throb in the dark.